So again, y'all, let me apologize real quick. I don't know if you can hear it, but we got Stinky playing with a loud dog toy behind me. And so you might hear that a little bit in the middle of this segment. But so let me go ahead and break this down for you guys. There was a big scandal that happened a couple days ago, and it involves Trump going to Arlington National Cemetery, where a lot, our soldiers are buried there, lost their lives in war and what have you. And there was this event that, so he was invited to. It's the 13 U.S. soldiers who died during the Afghanistan withdrawal, right? So he shows up there for this event, and understand there's different rules in different parts of Arlington National Cemetery, but in the specific part where he was, there are these rules that you cannot use this area for partisan political campaigning. You can't do it. We think it sort of besmirches the memory of the people who passed away here, and we don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry politician coming here to virtue signal about how pro the troops they are and how much their opponent is anti the troops. And so we just want to, let's wash our hands of all the politics when we step on this hallowed sacred ground, right? That's the idea of it, okay? So you're not going to be surprised to learn Trump shows up and he is in full campaign mode. So now I'm going to throw it to a CBS News breakdown of what happened, and we'll react to it. Here we go.
You may have heard there was an incident during Donald Trump's Monday visit to Arlington Cemetery. What distinguishes this from other Trump incidents is that the rules at the center of the story are particular. Arlington is the final resting place of the men and women who sacrificed for their country. Its rules are not mere suggestions. They honor that sacrifice. CBS News Pentagon reporter and producer Eleanor Watson joins me now to help unpack this story. Eleanor, what more do we know about the incident and kind of the trail of what we've learned and how it came about?
Hi, John. The Army is now directly contradicting the Trump campaign's account of what happened on Monday. In a statement released today, the Army says that a female staffer was, quote, abruptly pushed aside by members of the Trump campaign team. That directly contradicts the campaign claim that no physical altercation occurred. The Army says the staffer did file a report with the military police, but is deciding not to press charges. According to the Army, the staffer has faced unfair attacks for trying to enforce rules that were given to the Trump campaign ahead of time about filming at the cemetery. Some of those attacks come not only from Trump supporters, but also from the Trump campaign itself, whose communications director claimed that the staffer was, quote, clearly suffering from a mental health episode. The Army statement, which is rare for them to wade into a political controversy, directly rebukes the Trump campaign and defends the cemetery official, noting that the cemetery staff every year puts on nearly 3,000 public ceremonies like the one on Monday without any incidents.
And Eleanor, tell us about Section 60, which is where this took place, and the rules that are ironclad and longstanding for that section of Arlington National Cemetery.
Yeah, well, federal law prohibits filming and photography throughout the cemetery related to campaigns and any partisan activity. But officials are particularly sensitive about Section 60, and that's for good reason. Section 60 is considered, and when you go, feels like sacred ground. That's because, as you noted, that's where the veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan are buried and are still regularly visited by their immediate family members, their parents, their siblings, their spouses, their kids. And that's why the cemetery has very strict rules about filming there. Now, some family members of victims killed in the Abbey Gate bombing did invite former President Trump, and for sure it could be an honor to have a former president visit, but there are strict rules in place because there are other families who have loved ones buried there who may grieve differently. We heard from one of those families last night in a statement from Master Sergeant Andrew Marcasano's family said that they learned from Arlington that the Trump campaign did not adhere to the rules, and that, quote, they hope that those visiting this sacred site understand that these were real people who sacrificed their lives for freedom.
So in other words, it's against the rules to do any partisan political activity and campaigning here and record for that purpose. Trump shows up, and the entire reason he's there is to campaign like a political hack and make an issue, you ready for this, out of the withdrawal from Afghanistan and how bad it was and how wrong it is. And when they were told in no uncertain terms, both before they got there and when they were there, hey, you got to put the cameras away. You cannot campaign here. You cannot cut a campaign video and virtue signal and use this this sacred place for that. What happened? Trump's campaign operatives shoved aside the worker who was telling them that, accused her of having a mental health episode later in the day, and proceeded with their hack political campaigning at Arlington National Cemetery. Man, even for him, this is fucking low. But you know what? That goes hand in hand. Remember what he said the other week? We talked about this. A lot of veterans were pissed about this, bro. He came out and he said he was given the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Miriam Adelson. By the way, why was he doing that? Because she's a fucking giant billionaire, big money donor to his campaign. So she's getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom for being one of the most corrupt people and bribing Trump the most. But as he's giving it to her, he's like, this one's actually even better than the Presidential Medal of Honor. The Presidential Medal of Honor is what's given to soldiers for their sacrifice and their bravery. You got people without fucking legs, people without arms, people who've given everything. And he comes out there and says, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which I'm giving to my corrupt billionaire donor, that's better than the Presidential Medal of Honor. No, excuse me, it's quite the opposite. The more you sacrifice, the more you give up, the bigger and better and more amazing the honor is, right? Sacrificing everything. It's just a rich donor who happened to be married to a bigger billionaire asshole pro-Israel donor. And by the way, just so you know, what's the quid pro quo with Miriam Adelson? Trump's taking $100 million from her, and her condition is you have to let Israel annex the West Bank completely. So he's giving a medal to somebody who's buying the destruction of the Palestinian people in the West Bank. And he's saying this medal is better than the Presidential Medal of Honor. Oh my God. So that's what happened the other week. Veterans were pissed off, and now you get this. And guys, again, the whole reason he's going there is to virtue signal about the withdrawal from Afghanistan. In fact, they made that crystal clear. Let me show you this. So this is in Mediaite. Conservatives rip Harris after she accuses Trump of Arlington political stunt. All right, so right off the bat, it's not an accusation. It's a statement of objective reality. You went to Arlington for that's exactly why he went to Arlington, for a political stunt, even though he was told beforehand, and when they got there, no, you cannot use this ground for a political stunt. There's no partisan campaign here. That's against the law. Shoved the person aside, went ahead with it anyway. Okay, so let's go to some of the reactions. Kamala says, as vice president, I've had the privilege of visiting Arlington National Cemetery several times. It's a solemn place, a place where we come together to honor American heroes who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service of this nation. It's not a place for politics. This person says, you got them killed. You got them killed. J.D. Vance quote tweets it and says the following. President Trump was there at the invitation of families whose loved ones died because of your incompetence. Why don't you get off social media and go launch an investigation into their unnecessary deaths? Excuse you? An investigation into the withdrawal from Afghanistan? Okay, more. You never even said these fallen heroes' names who were killed on your watch. President Trump will never forget them. Unbelievable. And then Stephen Miller says, you are responsible for the deaths of the Abbey Gate 13. You let in the murderers of Jocelyn, Nungaray, Laken Riley, and Rachel Morin. Those are people killed by immigrants. And of course, he's virtue signaling over that. You have trafficked more children into America than any person on... What the... You have never once met with the families of your victims. Heartless. Okay, so you get the gist of it. You get the gist of what they're saying here. Guys, you want to know the reality? And Lindsey Graham, who's one of the dumber Republicans, fucked up and just came out and said it. Lindsey Graham was attacking Kamala over this too. And he said, the problem with Biden and Harris and what they did is that they decided to withdraw from Afghanistan. Lindsey, you idiot. You just said the quiet part out loud. You just gave the game away. All of these attacks from Trump, from Vance, from Stephen Miller, from all of them, the Trump War Room, the implication at the heart of all of their attacks is, how dare you withdraw from Afghanistan? 13 people died because you withdrew from Afghanistan. You shouldn't have withdrawn. You shouldn't have withdrawn. Well, guys, let me be as clear as I can about this. It didn't matter if you left Afghanistan when we left, or you stayed another 2 years, or you stayed another 7 years, or you stayed 18 more years. It wouldn't have mattered because whenever you left, the puppet government was going to collapse immediately and the Taliban was going to come in and retake power. That's a fact. It was a house of cards. It was a fake puppet government. They never had the ability to have that Afghan government defend themselves. They didn't have the ability. They didn't have the know-how. They didn't have the will. So whether they pulled out now, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years in the future, it wasn't going to matter. The government was going to collapse, and it was going to be messy, and it was going to be ugly. What they're saying is, how dare you pull out at all? And again, Lindsey Graham is one of the dumber ones, so he just came out and said it plain. These other ones are trying to play hide the ball about what the attacks are really about. The attacks are about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually had the balls to do the thing that Trump only virtue signaled about, getting out of Afghanistan. Oh, he made a deal to have the timetable to get out. Did he actually fucking do it under his watch? No, he didn't. And then when Biden and Harris actually had the balls to pull out, and they got a lot of fucking shit for it, you're there to virtue signal. Oh my God. They're so dishonest. They're such dishonest actors. And they're trying to flip it as if what Kamala did is somehow egregious and crosses a line, when the whole story is Trump was illegally campaigning and virtue signaling at the graves of our soldiers where you're not even allowed to record a video because you're not supposed to do partisan campaigning there. He goes and does that, breaks the rule, breaks the law, smears the person who tried to uphold the rules and the law there. And now they're trying to flip it and act like the scandal here is that we withdrew from Afghanistan. Well, motherfucker, we should have done it 10 years before. Even longer than that, right? We should have done it. But no, the implication is pro-war. It's neocon. It's warmongering bullshit, right? I feel horrible that these people died. But the fact of the matter is, where do you actually put the blame? You put the blame on George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, who should have never got us in this fucking war in the first place. I get it. You want to send some special forces troops to take out Osama bin Laden and get it done that way? I'm with it. Everybody would have understood that. No problems at all. But you want to do a 20-plus year long war? No. And finally, somebody had the balls to pull us out, and they get shit for it. Fuck these guys, man. They're total political hacks. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.